We did compost these strawberries, and just before we did was the perfect time. I believe it was February when we pulled up any weeds that we could see, and then put the compost down on top of it. So if we miss some, chances are it would probably drown them. It's going to flower pretty well, and this is just mid-March. These are the same strawberries that have been here for years. If you look on the sides, you see that it's a block garden. I mean block raised bed. Of course, there's like a 6 mil visqueen around the wall, just like there is in the inside of the dandelion garden. And if you look closely to the bird netting here, the way we put it up is my generous husband slaved over putting up this 23 gauge galvanized wire. That was the right gauge to make it easy to work with and easy to cut to this level. And we put the bird netting over the top with these little hooks from little what do you call it, garden stakes, which really hold it great. And if when you want to pick a weed, like if you pan that way, watch this. Go that way a little bit, please. See that little weed coming through? One that, look at this. I can just pull it back when I want to pick strawberries or weeds. I can just pull it up, and I can do this, and the birds can't get in. It's just tall enough to keep the dogs from being interested in it, or like walking through it, which they otherwise would. This is a follow-up on the dandelion that I composted as per my compost video. This is I composted in January, mid-January, and this is mid-March. The dandelion has all come in. It's still really small. Many have gone to flower. If you could zoom in on the flower. I'll just go by hand. Zoom in on some of the flowers. I've picked many. I'm going to show you in a minute in a jar what I've picked so that I can reseed other places. Like if you look down, some of these pots. It's the big pots. Look to the right. Not the little one. Little one's for something else. They're getting ready. Okay. Just as a little follow-up, this is like about 1 or 2 days. I think it's been 2 days since I put some dandelion flower tops in here that were just turning white and just about ready to open, like these guys. See this? Like that. And like that one there. I put them in here. They looked like this at the time. More or less like that. Maybe a little more closed. Well, just to show you that in a day or two, they open up and the seeds turn brown. See the brown seeds in there? You get real close and see the brown seeds. So that shows you that they're ready for planting in no time. I'm going to try to set this jar right here and open this up. So you can look at that. You see they're dark inside? Below the little flyaway white parts that look like little feather pieces. So that goes to show that it's fine to pick them at that stage I showed you, like this. And the other thing is always keep the lid off. I will show you my bigger jar where many others have turned into a puffball, which showing that they're there at the prime time when they're dark to plant them. You can plant them before that, but it is ideal to do it that way. My other jar, just say the mother load jar, this is the one I use as a picking jar. That one there always has the lid off, because if it's on, it would be too humid and they can actually rot. If the lid is off, you can collect them any time of the year and they'll be just fine. This here is the, gotta be careful out here because it's pretty windy right now. This here shows you all those that have opened up. Some of the ones on the bottom have, but they got kind of compressed by the ones on the top. It is critical when you store dandelion seeds in the form of puffballs, because there's still moisture in the plant, do not leave the lid on it. Since it's windy today, just for a few minutes, I'm going to put the lid on it just so they don't blow away, okay? As you can see, there's, I don't know if you can tell, but they're starting to lift out from the wind and blow away, which is in the wild how they plant themselves, okay? I am preparing to plant some dandelion. This would be the same preparation for any other herb, tomatoes, or vegetables that you may want to grow in a pot. This here is left over from last year. It's basically potting soil that had compost and occasionally maybe a little bit of organic cow manure in it. I want to show you something. I intentionally, especially more so down through the bottom, put some little rocks and pebbles in and a tiny bit of sand, maybe about 10% sand. You can't see it in the video, but there's a little bit of sand worked in here because sometimes with excess rain, there's actually a problem, with it flooding too much. But lower, there is more of the little bit of rocks and gravel like parts, see the little bit there. And that's for drainage. It gets richer and richer toward the top where you want the roots to take and get firm. But, it's more and more, sand or gravel toward the bottom. That's actually ideal. That's what I've done in that strawberry garden and this down here, this dandelion. Okay. Now, back to this. Back up. You don't want the dirt to be filled more than about this high so that when it is really hot and dry, you can put water in there and it can trap it and catch it. You don't have to stand there and put a little bit in at a time to get it really hydrated. So what I'm going to do is flatten this out generally, and I'm going to put in the next stage. Now, most people can just put their compost in on top of your planting, but I intentionally left a little bit of gap because what I have to do, because of the dogs who like to eat the compost, and although when it's really done right and really dry, it's usually not a problem for their stomachs. They just really like the nutrients and the minerals in there. I'm going to put, like I've done in these other pots, I'm going to put about an inch of our precious compost, but I'm then going to cover it with some other dirt and or organic cow manure so that, like here, I actually have dandelion seeds planted in there. It looks like it needs watering, but it's going to rain today anyway. They're not interested in the top surface of it. If I had the compost at the top, they might go and eat it. Okay, so this is again, safety first. One more thing about drainage. If you look, we have put, and I've done this under all of my pots because this is such rich soil. Look at how dark this soil is. Look how brown black it is. I didn't even fertilize that. That's just from being in our yard and from, these nutrients seeping through. The reason for a block up under every pot is it really helps drainage because these darn pots in this rich soil, which has a lot of clay too, get so seated in there, it's like sealed shut with almost a suction. Have you ever walked in clay and you hear this noise like it like sucks to your shoes? Well, that will create terrible drainage for these pots. That is why they're on a block. If you're in a sandy area with a lot of sand in your soil, that wouldn't be an issue. This is finished compost mixed with a little bit of sand and last year's leftover organic potting soil. This is everything but the compost. So since my dogs would be interested in this if it were at the surface, I'm just going to put a nice little layer by hand. That's about an inch high. Let's see. Take a shortcut. Oh, it finally came out of the bucket there. And I'm going to stir it in by hand a bit too. Okay. So this has been kept in a shed to keep their little noses and mouths out of it. Just mixing it in so that, everything is kind of even so the roots don't like have a super snack 1 minute at one level and then run into completely different dirt below it. Okay. And the reason for some sand is great drainage when you have too much of a downpour. Okay, it's almost as tall as it should get because you want about an inch gap at the top from here to here. A couple, 2 to 3 shovels full for this size pot of organic composted cow manure. So what I'm going to do is then, you know, we want it richer toward the top. At the top, when the seeds are taking, you know, when they're sprouting and getting established, we don't need as much drainage. So I know this seems tedious, but look, I have to do this once a year or once every time I plant dandelion. The reason for the dandelion in the pots as opposed to there is at the end of the season in the fall, when their roots are the most potent for nutrients and detoxifying. Please go see my video called Wild Green Superfood. That will explain a whole lot. But anyway, at that point, the roots are the most nutritious and the most medicinal. So I don't want to necessarily pull too many roots out of that dandelion garden. But from the pots, I don't mind because I can just repot them easily the next year. And so this is where, come fall, in these pots here, this is where I'm going to, after picking the leaves during the season and using them, I'm going to come back and pick the roots. I'm going to show you the ideal way to plant these, starting at the center. As I pull this apart, you're going to see the nice dark seeds. I'm going to put one more layer of organic composted cow manure. Because of my dogs, you guys can put in a layer of organic potting soil on after these seeds are here, or you can put more of your compost on top of these seeds, mostly to weight them down. This is the ideal way to plant them, although the alternative is, let me pick one here, like this, where the seeds will be less brown, not quite as ready at the moment, and you can just stuff it down there, slightly cover it up. So what I'm going to do from my supply, which is extraordinarily ample, is I'm going to keep, before the wind blows them away, pulling them apart like this. Don't have to be that great about it either. Just kind of pat them down, okay? And do the whole pot like this. And you don't have to be careful. All this debris here won't matter. You know, you can just not worry about it. And if I wanted to, like I've done in there in some of the so-called bare spots, look at that. Those seeds are a little less brown, but they'll be just fine. So you don't have to, it's not that, you don't have to be that picky. This one's a little more stuck together. What the heck? Go like that, okay? Stuck that one there. If you are planting any other seeds in this pot before your final layer, you know, if you put 1/4 to 1/2 inch of good compost, organic potting soil, or organic cow manure that's composted. See that one? That's okay if the camera can't see it. It's green inside. Put it toward the edge because the more critical one's in the middle. I'm going to pull some more puff balls out. Just spread. You know, really only takes a few of these seeds to fill the pot with dandelion plants. So I have so many I can afford to be extravagant. They came from that. As you can see in there, they're already giving me yet another supply. What you see right there could easily do an entire dandelion garden, at least that size or more, just from the seeds on the puff balls. Because some of these won't take, and this bee wants these because it still thinks they smell good. Bees love our yard. There's so much pollen for them to eat. So I'm going to pick those before retiring from my work today. Some kind of bean sprout there. We don't eat beans, so it's just some kind of sprout. Guess it's not a bean sprout. Anyway, what I'm going to do, and if I find some precious little tops that show up after I've already planted this, I can just do this. If I find more there and I've already been done planting, I just go like that, cover it up. Something in there from that batch, from that flower top, is going to sprout and become dandelion. And I don't have to feel like I'm wrecking my dandelion garden over there if I pull the roots out of here, because it's pretty simple to plant again the next year. I just pretty much stir it up and change the topping a bit. Hello there, Angelo. Do not touch that. Okay. What I'm going to do is, if I shake this off the shovel, I don't have to be that careful. I'm using organic cow manure. Have to hurry because it's windy and the seeds are starting to fly away. Just shaking it on so that I'm going to wind up with about a ½ inch total. If I'm not sure how much that's going to amount to, I'll take what I have here and I will flatten it out gently so as to not move the seeds anywhere but down. This here, again, since this compost isn't as rich as mine, and also organic potting soil would not be as rich as my compost that I worked in there, very gently here. That's almost a ½ inch. And I want it about 1 inch below the surface of the pot, so it's almost perfect here to keep the dogs out of that rich compost that's down below it. I'm going to get just a little bit more. I think one more half shovel. And break up any clumps, which once were a turd, a visible turd at one point. But when you have organic, truly well done organic cow manure, there's no odor whatsoever, which is one of the reasons why the dogs are not attracted to it, because they kind of live by their nose. I don't push down hard, just give it a little gentle pat. It's going to rain today, so I don't really feel the urge to keep them really well, or we start watering them. But the thing to do with anything that you're sprouting from seed is or any small plant that you're planting in your garden, or even flower, is to keep it relatively moist until it's established. After that, I rarely even have to water this dandelion. Maybe just in the midsummer, if we've had near 100-degree weather day after day and no rain. But dandelion will grow in semi-shade, in the shade, as long as it's not completely shaded all day, and in the bright sun. This here gets a little bit mixture of everything. Strawberries are intentionally over there. They're intentionally where they're not going to get sun all day, because in the middle of the summer, strawberries don't like too much severe heat. They won't die. They just kind of quit having babies, which are fruit. It's mid-March, and I just picked my first batch of dandelion here. It's small, of course, because everything that's a plant starts small. Okay, and this is the big pot here that I washed it in. You can still see some debris where I washed it. This is about 2 gallons of water, and I used about 1/4 teaspoon of grapefruit seed extract to soak it in first. Then I washed it and produced this much. Will be for the whole family for a week for a good dandelion tonic. Just not to waste or to be able to give away some of these dandelion seeds since it's windy. Thought I'd pick these, what's left. Every day I pick some. I just could have a ridiculous amount if I wanted it, okay? That's every day. So what I'm doing right now is picking the rest of the seeds, and I'm going to have them there because I'll find some other place to plant the dandelion. The reason for my yard, for the pots and for the raised bed, are to keep the dogs basically from peeing or pooping in it. Now, if you didn't have dogs or a cat that could get into your garden, you could have this in a dandelion garden on the ground, which we've done in other places. But now that we have 4 dogs, the cat's inside, and occasionally a neighborhood cat might get in here. I really don't want them on the ground. And if you live in a super wet area, on the ground can sometimes get flooded, which won't kill them. It won't kill the strawberries, but it can kind of subdue them and make them not put out as much usable food or fruit. Okay, so that's why I love my raised bed. These old railroad ties, one of them stained on top, so when I sit on it, I don't get burnt from the heat in the summer. And with cedar on the sides and 6 mil visqueen plastic sheeting, as you can see from that angle, on the inside. This has been here for a lot of years. The visqueen's holding up, partially because the dirt and the plants shade it in the summer. It's still in good shape. And this, I think I will sign off with. Please go see Kay's, on my playlist, under Kay's Primitive Food, go see Kay's Wild Green Superfood, which is an overall video on foraging and or planting wild greens that most people kill with weed killer, and all the things it can do for you nutritionally. The other one is Wild Gold Food and Remedy, is all about dandelion itself, like the why, the incredible medicinal effects, and the basic nutrition of dandelion. And one thing that helps pull all these videos together is under the playlist called Kay's Primitive Food. One thing that really pulls it all together is how we were designed to eat, and that applies to humans and your pets. It just fills in so many blanks about why I make the other videos. Also, critical facts about minerals. It doesn't just talk about minerals, it even talks about minerals that you can use to detox, which explains itself if you see it. So really, consider looking at all the nutritionally based and the smart gardening videos I have on my playlists. The Wild Gold Food and Remedy is on a playlist called Kay's Alternative Remedies. So, some things are in two playlists, but either way, that playlist there has very, very important other remedies that you may want to look up. And also, if you have heard of MMS, which is very controversial yet very simple. It's something that's legal, but not the doctors in the U.S. cannot prescribe it, or they could lose their license. It's something that, if it were popularized by the medical industry, so many drugs would be put out of business. Something that I don't have on my playlist yet is DMSO, which is another thing that, if it were popularized and doctors were allowed to prescribe it freely, it would put a lot of anti-inflammatory and cancer medications out of business. So if you have cancer or any infectious disease, something that's not right but you can't figure it out, please go see my playlist called Kay's Alternative Remedies. I have selected some of the best videos to help you with some serious issues right there. So I don't want to try to go into it now, but please go see it. And be well, and really take your food and your health in your own hands. It's your body, and you have to live with it until you're old. And hopefully you'll get old and you won't be miserable. That's much more precious than money. That's why my dandelion video is called Kay's Wild Gold, as in their flower tops, Food and Remedy. It's as precious as gold, more so.